Okay, so this is the key to section 1.2, part 1, and these are linear equations. So in the first one, first thing you want to do is get rid of the parentheses, and you're going to get rid of the parentheses by using the distributive property. So you're going to distribute the 3 within this parentheses. So every term that's inside this parentheses, you're going to multiply by 3. All right, so don't say 4x plus 3 is 7x, because that's not true. For one thing, they're not like terms, and secondly, if you follow the order of operations, you have to multiply before you add. And over here, again, don't say 7 minus 2 is 5, because remember, this is multiplication right here, and this is subtraction. Or order of operations says you have to multiply first. All right, now when you distribute, just like you did here, make sure you distribute the negative 2. So distribute the negative 2. All right, so I'm going to get 4x plus, and then distribute the 3. I get 3x. 3 times 4 is 12. So on the left side of the equal sign, I get 4x plus 3x plus 12. On the right side, I get 7. All right, if I'm distributing negative 2, so I get negative 2 times 2x is a negative 4x. A negative 2 times a negative 1 is a positive 2. So that's what you should have. So that should be your next step. Okay, then the next step is to combine like terms. So 4x plus 3x is 7x. 7x plus 12 equal, and over here I'm going to get negative 4x. Make sure you write it as negative 4x, not 4x. That's a negative 4x. And then 7 and 2 is 9. So negative 4x plus 9. All right, now the next step, remember, is to bring all the variables to one side, constants to the other, since that's a linear equation. So since that's a negative 4x, the opposite is to add 4x. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. That's a 7 right here. So 7x plus 4x is 11x. So I get 11x plus 12. So remember, what I'm doing now is combining like terms. Equal. Notice at every step I have that equal sign, and I'm trying to keep that equal sign aligned. Negative 4x, then 4x is 0. 0 plus 9 is 9. All right, next step is to subtract 12 from both sides. And combine like terms, that's 0. So I get 11x equal 9 subtract 12 is a negative 3. And then let me go ahead and just rewrite this here. So I have 11x equal negative 3. The next step is to get x by itself. Right now, multiplying by 11. The opposite is to divide by 11. And so 11 divided by 11 is 1. 1 times x is x. So my solution is negative 3 11ths. Okay, so that goes here. Okay, now over here in the next one, remember there's no number right here. Well, that's understood to be a 1. So this right here is a 1. So you're going to be distributing, if you need to rewrite it, it actually looks like this. You'll say 4 minus, and then that's a 1. If you want to think of, put a number here, 1, 2x plus 5 equals 3x minus 4 plus x. So I just rewrote it. So I'm going to distribute the negative 1 here. And this is the only distributive property I'm going to use. So I get 4. A negative 1 times 2x is a negative 2x. A negative 1 times 5 is a negative 5. Equal, and then I'm just going to rewrite this over. All right, so the only thing I did was I used a distributive property. I got rid of the parentheses. Here there were 2 sets of parentheses, so I used a distributive property twice. Here there's only 1 set of parentheses. I used a distributive property once. Now, once I did that, remember the next step was to combine like terms. So these two I can combine. So I'm going to get a negative 2x. A positive 4 and a negative 5 is a negative 1. Make sure you understand that's a negative 1. Equal, and 3x plus x is 4x minus 4. Okay, so I'm going to bring all the variables one side, constants to the other. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Because remember, you want 0 here, because 4x minus 4x, that gives you 0. Don't add 4x. I mean, mathematically, adding 4x to both sides is fine, but it's not going to help you because 4x plus 4x is 8x. So you still have variables on both sides. So this is a positive 4x, you can subtract 4x. Now, combining like terms, a negative 2x and a negative 4x is a negative 6x minus 1 equal 0 minus 4 is a negative 4. Adding 1 to both sides, and combining like terms, I get negative 6x equal a negative 3. Negative 4 plus 1 is a negative 3. To get x by itself, right now I am multiplying by negative 3. I'm sorry, negative 6, so the opposite is to divide by negative 6. And so simplifying, negative 6 divided by negative 6 is a 1. 1 times x is x, equal. A negative divided by negative is a positive. Make sure you understand that's a positive. This point in your math courses, you need to recognize now that's a positive. And then reduce 3 sixths 1 half. So I get x equal 1 half. All right. Number 3. Okay, I'm going to use the distributive property twice here. I have two sets of parentheses. And so I get 8 equal 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times a negative 3 is a negative 9. Negative 2 is what you're going to distribute here. So negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. Negative 2 times a positive 1 is a negative 2. Combining like terms, I get 8 equal 6x minus 2x is 4x. A negative 9 and a negative 2 is a negative 11. All right, now since if you look at these in both situations here, you had variables on both sides, constants on both sides. Variables on both sides, constants on both sides. Here, though, you have constants on both sides, but you have the variable just on one side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the variable, I'm going to bring the constants to the other side, to the left side. So I'm going to add 11 to both sides. So 8 plus 11 is 19, equal 4x. This right here is 0. And then one more step and you're done. So to get x by itself, right now, multiplying by 4, the opposite would be to divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1 times x is x. So x equals 19 fourths. Right. Or if you want to write as a mixed number, 4 into 19, that would be what? 4. 4 times 4 is 16, remainder 3. So you'd say 4 and 3/4. So one of those is fine. Okay, now in number 4, you have a fraction. So you remember you want to clear your fraction. So you can do this by finding the LCD. So the LCD of 4 and 5, and remember this is 2 over 1. So 4, 5, and 1 is 20. The LCD is 20. And so you're going to multiply both sides by 20. Now remember in our discussion, since I have two fractions on the left side, I'm going to put that in parentheses, like this, just like this. And then on the right side, since that's just one term, I'm going to leave it without parentheses. And so now I'm going to multiply this by 20 and this by 20. So remember, what you do to one side, you do to the other. Now multiplying both sides by the LCD is going to clear those denominators. You're going to have ones in their places. But don't make a mistake and reduce this first. You can't. Because if you do, you're going to say 4 and 4 is 1, 4 and 20 is 5, and distribute a 5, and that's incorrect. All right, so you got to be careful. And so you would distribute the 5 here, and that's not true because 20 has to be multiplied by this. So you got to be careful. So actually do this, and then right in the next step, you're saying 20 times x plus 3 over 4 minus 20 times x over 5. So notice they're supposed to have a 20 here, not a 5. So if you had said 4 to 4 is 1, 4 to 20 is 5, and distribute the 5, that would have been wrong because you need a 20 here. Equal, and then 20 times 2. Okay, now reduce. So remember the whole point of multiplying by the LCD is to make this a 1. And now you can. 4 and 4 is 1, 4 to 20 is 5. And now distribute a 5 here. Now remember we talked about this in the video, so make sure you put this in parentheses because 5 has to be multiplied by both terms, not the first, or just the first, but the x and the positive 3. Alright, so now distribute. I get 5x plus 15. Go over here. This is 1. This is what, 4? So I get minus 4x equal, and then 20 times 2 is 40. Combining like terms, 5x minus 4x is x. I get x plus 15 equal 40. Subtract 15 from both sides. Combine like terms, I get x to equal, and then 40 subtract 15 is 25. So I get x to be 25. All right, and then finally, the next one, you have again fraction, so you got to find the LCD. So you have 4 fractions. If you think about it, one here, one here, one here, and then 5 over 1. And so the LCD of 2, 3, 2, and this 5 over 1, this 1, is 6. So the LCD is 6. All right, now notice both sides, you have 2 fractions. So I'm going to put both sides in parentheses, just like we did this side here. Put that side in parentheses. So the same idea is going to apply. So I get 3x minus 1 over 2 plus x plus 2 divided by 3 in parentheses equal, and then again in parentheses, 1 half x minus 5. And so now I'm going to multiply both sides by 6, just like this. And then remember, to be careful. What you may want to do is actually, with this step, do this step again. So you'd say 20 times this first fraction minus 20 times the second fraction equal 20 times the other side. So you do the same thing here. So all of these fractions has to be multiplied by 6. So then you're going to say this. You're going to say, distribute now, you're going to say 6 times the first fraction plus 6 times the second fraction equal, on this side, you're going to say 6 times the first fraction minus, and then 6 times 5. And now you're going to reduce. 2 and a 2 is 1, 2 and a 6 is 3. Now remember, you need to put this in parentheses. You put this in parentheses right here because you have to distribute the 3 through here. All right, put this in parentheses right here because you have to distribute 3 and 3 is 1, 3 and 6 is 2, so you have to distribute the 2. Okay? All right, so you're going to get this now. You're going to get 3 times 3x is 9x minus 3 times 1 is 3. So make sure you understand that this term right here becomes this, 9x minus 3. Not 9x minus 1, 9x minus 3. Plus, and then distribute the 2 here. 2 times x is 2x. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So make sure you understand that this right here gives you this. Equal. All right, reducing here. 2 and a 2 is 1. 2 and a 6 is 3. 3 times 1 times x. This is 1 over 1. So 3 times 1 times x is 3x. Minus, and then 6 times 5 is 30. That's what I have. So I've cleared the fractions. I no longer have any fractions. Now the next step is to combine like terms. 9x plus 2x is 11x. A negative 3 and a positive 4 is a positive 1. Equal. And over here I can't combine anything, so I'm just going to rewrite it. Okay, I have variables on both sides, constants on both sides. So let's just bring the variables to the left. So if I subtract 3x from both sides, 11x minus 3x is 8x plus 1 equal. That's 0. 0 minus 30 is a negative 30. Subtracting 1 from both sides, combining like terms, a positive 1 and a negative 1, 0. I get 8x equal negative 31. A negative 30 and a negative 1 is a negative 31. And then finally, to get x by itself, right now I'm multiplying by 8. The opposite of multiplying by 8 is to divide by 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times x is x. So I get x to be negative 31 over 8. So that's your solution. Okay, so that's going to take care of the key to section 1.2, part 1.